At the Hayek Prize for the Manhattan Institute for 2013. And here is the recipient himself, Jisheng, who lives in China, in Beijing, and has written a book, Tombstone, The Great Chinese Famine, 1958-62, that's available in English, many languages. He is translator and a very careful speaker in Chinese and English. Rose Tang is here with us, and we welcome all of you. And Amity now is going to explain how the Hayek Prize connects to this darkness that we've heard from China. Amity?
Most people think of Hayek as a free market economist, and he was a great one. He thought, for example, that free prices, are messengers that tell us more about our economy than any bureaucrat could. In the past, we've had some esteemed winners of the Hayek Prize with telling books. One, perhaps he's been a guest on this show, John, was Bill Easterly, who wrote about the folly of aid to Africa in a wonderful book, William Easterly, or Matt Ridley, who wrote about the serendipity of economic growth, when you have an idea that leads to another idea that doesn't come from a central planner, or John Taylor, the wonderful economist at Stanford, who won this prize last year. But this year, the jury reached out, or shall we say this author and his submission reached out to us, and a book from China, Tombstone, was selected. What does that have to do with the free market economist Hayek? Hayek understood that elites, and he spoke specifically of academic snobbery, we want to say that, professors and governments getting together, would sometimes get incredibly arrogant and do perverse things because it sounded good to them. And there's a kind of arrogance, almost a totalitarian intellectual arrogance as well. And we saw that this book, Tombstone, was about one such instance, one of the most perverse and tragic such instances, that of the Great Leap Forward, because Mao thought he was right, the Chinese leader, did he not? And he followed his own mind, and he followed what other thinkers thought, other political leaders. He did what Moscow was saying, didn't he? And he did what certain scholars told him to do. And it was absolutely absurd to take apart agriculture, to take away food, to advertise a harvest but take away the bounty from the people, to pretend to industrialize in an absurd way. So this was a Hayekian event that Hayek himself hadn't necessarily imagined when he began to write. And we thought, wow. And what's very interesting, and I hope Mr. Yeng can talk about this, was he discovered Hayek himself in Asia. So it wasn't just our own, as jurists, fantasy. We saw it in the book. There's Hayek in this book, and Mr. Yang can tell you a bit more about
Rose,
that.
I understand Jisheng is publishing in Forbes tomorrow, right, Gordon? He's publishing about his thoughts about Mr. Hayek. What can he tell the audience are his thoughts?
您祝贺你明天在 Forbes 那个网站发表你关于海耶克的文章。就是您能不能跟我们的听众谈一谈您对海耶克的那个看法，您的理解。
哈耶克是他的实质就是尊重个人自由，让每个人自己进行自由选择，不要政府或者为每个人安排一切。如果政府为每个人安排一切，做一个计划，这个计划是肯定是做不好的。他虽然主观上想把老百姓引入天堂，实际上就引入地狱。他表面上好像是主观上可能要让给老百姓以公平，实际上给老百姓以牢狱。所以这个集体经济那种制度实际上是通向牢狱之路。就是我们这个大饥荒就是海尔克说出的一个具体的案例。所以我通过海尔克的书更理解大饥荒产生的原因，通过研究大饥荒更能理解海尔克的思想。
To my understanding, the essence of Hayek's theories is the respect for personal freedom, individual choice. This is to the opposite of the planned economy. When the government in China disrespected people's choices and individuals, and wanted to design this grand system and and had these grand plans to take all Chinese people to paradise. As a result, actually, it was taken to people to hell, and instead of the promised egalitarianism, it was serfdom for Chinese people, and studying the Great Famine deepened my understanding of Hayek. On the other hand, studying Hayek, because the Great Famine is really a lively, vivid case study of Hayek's theories. So that deepened my understanding of a Great Famine as well.
How did the Great Leap Forward, the Great Famine, end?
大饥荒是怎么结束的呢？
大饥荒结束主要是后来给农民以自由种地，就是当时叫包产到户，有集体经济，就是农民可以自己种自己的地，这是当时很多地方都是让农民自己种地，只要农民自己种地，粮食就多就起来了。
什么时候开始的
？61年开始。
So in 1961, the government started to let every household in rural China contract a plot of land to farm. And then they started to see the change, and they started to see the surplus and the yields, and the economy started to get better.
So it's
in other words,
initiative.
They let people eat.
Yes, well, they let people do what people know what to do best, which is the story of individual initiative.
And the Chinese, given the opportunity to feed themselves, took it, Gordon. They didn't need a directive from Beijing.
The Chinese people know what to do, John, then and now.
We thank very much, Gordon and I, for joining us in our studio tonight. The 2013 Friedrich Hayek winner at the Manhattan Institute, Yeng Jisheng, and his book Tombstone, which is the story of mass death, but also the story of a people who survived the worst that could be thrown at them by a dictatorship. Survived it and prosper here 50 or 60 years later. Amity Shlaes is the head of the jury that awarded this prize. Amity is the author of Coolidge, as well as our colleague and friend. And we also especially thank Rose Tang. I'm John Batchelor.
Thank you.